President Donald Trump is expected to sign an order postponing Wednesday's deadline for steeper trade tariffs on dozens of economies, including the EU, until the 1st of August. An Taoiseach welcomed the move this evening, saying it avoided the prospect of 50% tariffs coming into effect on Wednesday on EU exports to the US.
That there will now be a further in and around 3 weeks provided to try and make progress on a deal is something that I would cautiously welcome, because 50% tariffs would have been extraordinarily damaging, I think, to the EU-US trade relationship. But there is now clearly a very significant body of work to be done. Our position remains the same. Tariffs are not a good thing. We need to seek every opportunity to lower them and to get to zero for zero.
I'll speak to our Washington correspondent Sean Whelan, who joins us now. And Sean, broad welcome for what looks like an impending delay until August, but a body of work still to be done, says the Taoiseach. So what happens now?
Well, what happens now is continuation of the negotiations that have been going on really since the day after the election last year that brought Donald Trump to power, when you had this offer from the European Commission to buy more energy products from the US to close a trade gap, which they acknowledge does exist. But there's been a lot of back and forth ever since. Now, it was always a big ask to expect the EU, which is responsible with the US for about 30% of global trade in goods and services, to close out a gigantic trade agreement in a matter of months. These things typically take years to negotiate, but we know the current inhabitant of the White House wants things done in a hurry. But it was really never realistic to expect to get a deal with the EU and everybody else in the world by Wednesday of this week. So the President is recognising the inevitable and extending the negotiating period until the 1st of August. He hasn't said anything about applying new pressure of tariffs against the EU, but he has against Japan, South Africa. South Africa hit with a 30% tariff letter this afternoon. Nothing about the EU yet. We expect he's going to sign an executive order extending the period for negotiations until April 1st. By his schedule, he should be signing executive orders as we speak. But this will give the EU time to do a deal which is close. They think it's a holding pattern type of deal. It won't cover everything, but it'll give some modicum of certainty to industry, which is really where the pain is being felt at the moment, because without the certainty of any kind of an agreement, companies are just holding back on investments, holding back on building up stocks, or even planning on trying to export here to the United States. And that's just bad for everybody's business. So they are reasonably close, and the Irish, the Europeans, hoping they can do something well in advance of August 1st.
Sean, let's switch our focus to the Middle East. Talks continuing in Doha, Mr. Netanyahu arriving in Washington. Are hopes of an enduring ceasefire growing a little closer?
Well, certainly President Trump is hoping that there will be an enduring ceasefire. He's due to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu in a little over 2 hours' time. That's why you've got all these fences up around the White House in anticipation of possible protests. Mr. Netanyahu, though, looks like he's going to be here for much of this week. It won't be an all-in at this dinner meeting between the two leaders tonight. He's expected to be around for what looks like a parallel negotiating process between what's going on in Doha and a separate talks between Israel and the United States to try and get an agreement across the line. And that, of course, indicates that there is a lot of politicking, a lot of difficulty between all of the parties in this particular situation. But they all want, or most of them want, a ceasefire in Gaza